What if I told you there's a single way of speaking that makes people lean in, lock on, and feel like they can't resist you? Not charm, not status, not money, just words chosen and delivered with precision. Here's the reality most men face. They talk too much, they try too hard, and in the process they drain their own presence. You've probably been there. You crack a joke that falls flat, you compliment someone, and it sounds forced, or you explain yourself so much that the moment loses all tension, and instead of drawing people closer, you push them away without even realizing it. But the truth is, attraction, whether in relationships, friendships, or business, isn't about how many words you can say. It's about how you say the right ones at the right time. Stoic psychology teaches us that control begins with the self, and when you master your words, you master the impression you leave behind. That's why 99.9% of people can't resist you when you know how to use this. In this video, I'll show you the exact principles that make your speech magnetic. Compliments that land pauses, that create tension phrases, that plant thoughts they can't shake. We're not talking about tricks or fake charm. We're talking about discipline, presence, and the dark psychology of influence. By the end, you'll understand how to speak less, say more, and leave people wanting more of you every single time. Let's get into it. Number 1. The power of earned compliments. A compliment can open doors or close them. The truth is, most men get compliments wrong. They throw them out too often, too generic, or too early, and what could have been powerful ends up sounding cheap. Women especially are used to hearing empty lines. "You're beautiful." "You look amazing." It washes over them like background noise. But when a compliment is earned, when it's specific and tied to something real, it becomes unforgettable. Take David, a 48-year-old sales manager from Ohio. He told me about a woman he met, Karen, who was 45. At first, he fell into the trap. He gave her compliments on her looks right away. She smiled politely, but the spark wasn't there. Then one evening, after hearing her talk passionately about raising her teenage son while holding down a demanding career, he said, "I respect how much strength it must take to carry all that with grace." That landed differently. Karen's expression changed. She leaned in, her guard dropped. Because this wasn't about looks, it was about character. And character-based compliments are rare, which makes them magnetic. That's the power of an earned compliment. It shows you're paying attention, that you're not just reacting to what anyone else can see. You've noticed effort, discipline, sacrifice, things that matter deeply to the person. And when you speak to that, you're not flattering their ego, you're honoring their identity. The Stoics warned against wasting words. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That's the filter you should use for compliments. Don't say it unless it's true. Don't say it unless it's earned. Because when you hold back and only speak when it matters, your words gain weight. Now think about how this plays out in attraction. A man who sprays compliments everywhere loses authority. He sounds needy, like he's fishing for approval. But a man who waits, observes, and then delivers one precise, authentic compliment becomes unforgettable. The woman feels it. She knows you're not trying to get something, you're recognizing something she values in herself. David said that one shift changed everything. Karen told him later, "That was the first time I felt like someone actually saw me, not just the surface." And that's the effect you want. A compliment that feels earned makes the other person feel seen, not just admired. Now let's make this practical. Next time you feel the urge to compliment, pause. Ask yourself, is this about something they chose, built, or fought for? Or is it something everyone notices? Compliment the first, and you'll stand apart. And here's where dark psychology overlaps with Stoicism. You don't hand out your words cheaply. You control them, you ration them, you make them valuable. That scarcity makes people crave them even more. So let's claim this as your standard. Drop it in the comments now. I compliment with purpose. because in the next part we'll take it even deeper how to mirror someone's hidden desires so they feel like you understand them better than anyone else ever has. Number 2. Mirror their hidden desires. One of the deepest forces in human psychology is the need to be understood. Not just heard, not just noticed, but truly seen. When you mirror someone's hidden desires, you tap into this force. You don't just interact with their words, you connect with their core. That's why people can't resist it. It feels like you're speaking directly to their soul. Think about the difference between surface talk and soul talk. Surface talk is the usual, "How was your day? You're good at your job." It's safe, polite, and forgettable. Soul talk happens when you reflect back to them what they truly want, often something they haven't even said out loud. When you do that, you create a shock of recognition. They feel seen in a way that almost no one else provides. For example, imagine someone tells you about how hard they've been working on a side project. Most people would respond, "That's cool," or "Good job." But if you say, "It sounds like this project gives you a sense of purpose, like it's more than work, it's who you want to be," suddenly you're not just commenting. You're reflecting their hidden desire to live a meaningful life. And when you mirror that desire, the connection deepens instantly. This is the essence of dark Stoic psychology-controlled words that strike at the core. You don't flatter, you don't overreach, you simply reveal what they already crave. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you mirror someone's desires, you're showing them the color they've been painting with all along. You're holding up a mirror, and in that reflection they see themselves more clearly, and they associate that clarity with you. Why is this so powerful? Because hidden desires run deeper than surface wants. A surface want might be attention, status, or pleasure. A hidden desire is often about legacy, freedom, love, or recognition. When you speak to those, you bypass the defenses. The person feels, even if just for a moment, that you get them in a way others don't. Now here's the key: you can't fake this. People can sense when you're guessing or projecting. Mirroring hidden desires requires two things: attention and restraint. You have to listen carefully, pick up on the subtext, and wait until the right moment to reflect it back. Too soon, and it feels forced. Too vague, and it feels empty. But when you get it right, it creates an almost addictive pull. This is why people who master this skill become magnetic. It's not manipulation, it's awareness. You're not planting false ideas, you're reflecting what's already there in a way that makes the other person feel alive. And here's the paradox: the less you push, the more powerful the effect. You're not trying to impress them, you're showing them their own vision of themselves, and that's irresistible. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The same applies here, but in reverse. When you mirror desires, you turn imagination into recognition. You help the other person see the version of themselves they want to become, and that feeling lingers long after the words fade. So here's your practice. The next time someone shares something with you, ask yourself, what's the desire behind these words? Then reflect that desire back to them in a simple, clear way, not to flatter but to reveal. Do this and you'll notice how quickly people lean in, how their eyes change, how their walls drop. Now, lock it in. Write this in the comments, "I see deeper." Because in the next part, we'll explore another layer of magnetism, the power of mystery, how a little bit of ambiguity can make you unforgettable. Number 3. Mystery makes you magnetic. There's a reason mystery pulls people in. It creates tension, and tension creates attraction. When you reveal everything about yourself too quickly, you remove the sense of discovery. But when you hold something back, when you choose your words carefully and let silence carry part of the weight, people lean in. They want to know more. That curiosity is magnetic. Think about Tom, a 52-year-old architect from Chicago. He told me about meeting a woman named Lisa who was 49. At first, Tom made the mistake many men make: he overshared. Within the first hour of their conversation, he laid out his career history, his failed marriage, and even his retirement plans. Lisa smiled, but later admitted she felt like there was nothing left to learn about him. The intrigue was gone. Months later, Tom decided to approach things differently. At a dinner party, when Lisa asked what he had been up to, he simply said, "I've been working on a project that surprised me, something I didn't see coming." Then he paused. No over-explaining, no details, just a hint. Lisa leaned in, curious, and asked more questions. Tom revealed pieces, slowly letting her pull the story out. By the end of the night, she told him, "I feel like there's always more to uncover with you." That's mystery at work, not manipulation but pacing. The truth is, most men kill their own magnetism by rushing. They confuse honesty with unloading. But honesty doesn't mean emptying the whole box at once. It means being real while also respecting timing. When you create space for curiosity, you allow attraction to grow naturally. The Stoics valued restraint in every form. Epictetus once said, "Silence is safer than speech." In modern terms, that doesn't mean you should never speak. It means you should let silence do part of the speaking. Mystery isn't about hiding, it's about giving just enough to spark imagination. And here's the key: mystery only works when it's authentic. If you force it, it feels like a game. But when you genuinely live a life that's layered, when you pursue interests, when you have goals and values outside of the interaction, your mystery is real. You don't need to reveal everything at once because your life has depth. Notice how Tom's second approach wasn't about inventing a story, it was about framing what he already had. By offering a glimpse instead of a dump, he made himself more intriguing. Lisa didn't feel shut out. She felt invited to explore. And that invitation is what makes mystery irresistible. Here's how you can apply this. Next time you're asked about your life, resist the urge to give the full download. Instead, give a piece, then pause. If they're interested, they'll ask more. That's how you know you're creating tension. And if they don't ask, you've still held your ground with dignity. Either way, you win. So lock this truth into your mind. The less you reveal at once, the more magnetic you become. Drop it in the comments right now. I embrace mystery. Because in the next part, we'll take it a step further. How to plant thoughts in someone's mind so that you stay with them long after the conversation ends. Number 4. Plant thoughts that linger. Some words vanish the moment they're spoken. Others stay replaying in the back of someone's mind long after the conversation ends. That's the difference between casual talk and magnetic influence. If you want to be unforgettable, you need to plant thoughts that linger. This doesn't mean manipulation. It means choosing words that carry weight, words that connect to emotion, imagination, and identity. When you drop these seeds, you don't need to repeat yourself. The other person will water them on their own, replaying your words, adding their own meaning, and letting the thought grow. Here's the secret: lingering thoughts come from implication, not explanation. If you describe everything in detail, you leave no space for imagination. But if you give just enough, their mind does the rest. For example, instead of saying, "I like cooking pasta," you say, "There's this dish I've been working on. It has a story." That small twist makes them wonder. What dish? What story? You've left a breadcrumb, and now they follow the trail. The Stoics understood the power of suggestion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you plant a thought, you're offering a color, a shade, that their mind begins to absorb. The more they reflect on it, the deeper it sets. And because it came from you, the association ties back to your presence. This is also why future projection works so well. When you casually say, "You'd love that place," or "Next time I'll show you," you're painting a mental picture. Even if nothing happens right away, the seed is planted. They imagine being there with you. They imagine the next time. That's how you live in their mind, long after you've left the room. But remember, You can't flood the ground with too many seeds. One or two well-placed thoughts are more powerful than a dozen scattered ones. The goal is not to overload, but to let one idea echo. Now, here's where it becomes even more important for men. Planting thoughts is about restraint. Most men rush to fill silence, to keep talking, to make sure they're not forgotten. But it's the opposite that works. By leaving space, by offering just enough, you make your presence unforgettable. They'll do the remembering for you. So here's your practice. Next time you're in conversation, try this. Share something incomplete but intriguing. Give them a hint of your world, then stop. If they want more, they'll ask. And if they don't, you've still held the frame with confidence. Claim it right now in the comments. I plant deeply. And if you want to take this beyond the basics, if you want access to private strategies, deeper Stoic insights and advanced tools for mastering attraction and influence, then consider joining as a member of this channel. Membership gives you exclusive content designed to sharpen your words, your presence, and your discipline as a man. It's not about supporting the channel, it's about investing in yourself. Because once you master this skill, you'll stop chasing conversations. Instead, your words will chase them, replaying in their mind, pulling them back to you again and again. Stay with me, because in the next part we'll break down why less is always more and how restraint in your words makes them hit harder than anything else. Number 5. Less words, more impact. There's a mistake many men make when they speak. They think more words equal more influence. They over-explain, overshare, and flood conversations with noise. But the truth is, the fewer words you use, the more powerful each one becomes. Restraint makes people lean in. Silence makes them crave more. Take Robert, a five-year-old financial advisor from New York. He admitted that for most of his life, he filled every pause with chatter. He thought silence made him look boring, so he kept talking, hoping to hold attention. But the effect was the opposite. His words lost weight. People tuned out. Then one evening at a networking event, he changed his approach. When asked about his work, instead of launching into a 5-minute monologue, he simply said, "I help people feel free about money." Then he stopped. The other person tilted their head, curious. They asked questions, pulling more out of him, and Robert realized something profound. By saying less, he created more impact. The same lesson played out for Denise, a 51-year-old nurse from Arizona. She noticed that when she spoke less but chose her words carefully, especially with her teenage kids, her authority grew. Instead of nagging or explaining endlessly, she'd pause, make one strong statement and let it sit. Her kids listened more when she said less. That's when she understood restraint creates presence. This principle is deeply Stoic. Epictetus reminded his students, silence is safer than speech. Not silence as withdrawal, but silence as strength, the choice to speak only when necessary. The fewer the words, the harder they hit. That's why leaders, mentors, and men of authority rarely waste breath. Their speech is measured, deliberate, and unforgettable. So why does this work? Because scarcity increases value. Just as gold is precious because it's rare, your words become valuable when they're not scattered everywhere. If you talk endlessly, your voice becomes background noise. But when you pause, people pay attention. When you speak less, they listen more. This also applies to attraction. A man who explains himself constantly comes across as insecure. He's trying to prove, to justify, to win approval. But a man who speaks simply and lets silence carry the weight radiates confidence. It tells the other person, I don't need to fill space. My presence is enough. That kind of presence is magnetic. Here's how you can put this into practice. Next time you're asked about yourself, give a short, powerful answer and stop. Resist the urge to over-explain. Let them ask more. The curiosity you create is worth more than any speech you could deliver. And if you find yourself tempted to keep talking, remember this. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure. It makes the other person lean into you. Robert told me later that his business grew when he stopped overselling. "I learned to shut up," he said with a laugh. And suddenly people leaned in. They wanted to know more. That was when I realized less really is more. So let this be your standard. Don't flood the room with words. Choose them, sharpen them, deliver them, and then stop. Lock it in by writing this in the comments. I speak with purpose. Because in the next part we'll dig into the subtle art of pauses, how the silence between your words can make you more compelling than any speech ever could. Number 6. Speak with pauses, not panic. Most men are terrified of silence. The moment there's a pause in conversation, they rush to fill it with words, any words, because they're afraid of losing attention. But here's the truth. Silence doesn't kill attraction, panic does. The pause, when used with confidence, doesn't weaken your presence, it multiplies it. Think about the way tension works in music. A pause before the chorus doesn't ruin the song. It makes the chorus hit harder. The same is true in speech. A well-placed pause doesn't signal emptiness, it creates suspense. It makes the listener wait, lean in, and anticipate your next word. The Stoics knew the strength of controlled silence. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." That principle is more than good manners, it's strategy. A pause forces you to listen, to slow down, and to choose your words with intention. And when you finally speak, your words carry more weight. Here's what most men get wrong. They think talking non-stop shows confidence. In reality, it shows anxiety. Confidence is the ability to sit in silence without flinching, to let space exist knowing that your presence alone is enough. When you pause, you're saying, without words, I'm not afraid of the quiet. I own it. Imagine this in practice. You're in a conversation and someone challenges you. The insecure man stumbles, rushes, explains too much. The confident man pauses, lets the silence breathe, then answers slowly, clearly. Which one do you think earns respect? Which one do you think draws people closer? It's obvious. The pause is also where subtle attraction is built. That slight gap makes people project their own emotions into the space. They wonder what you're thinking, what you'll say next. And the more they wonder, the more engaged they become. It's not manipulation, it's rhythm. You're setting the pace instead of letting panic control you. But here's the catch. A pause only works if you're comfortable in it. If you pause but look nervous, shuffle your feet or break eye contact, the silence turns awkward. The key is composure. Breathe. Hold eye contact. Let your body stay still. Then, when you speak again, you'll feel the shift. The room leans toward you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." Pauses are the physical expression of that calm mind. They show restraint, discipline, and inner power. You're not scrambling to fill space, you're commanding it. So how do you practice? Start small. In your next conversation, when someone asks a question, wait 2 seconds before answering. Resist the urge to jump in. Notice how the silence feels. Notice how they react. You'll be surprised what feels like forever in your head is often just enough to create presence. With time, those pauses become natural, and your words start landing harder. Remember, pauses don't weaken you, they frame you. Just like a painting needs empty space to make the image stand out, your words need silence to give them force. So let's claim this skill right now. Drop it in the comments, I pause with power. And stay tuned, because in the next part, we'll explore another truth, how becoming the challenge instead of the pursuer makes you irresistible. Number 7. Be the challenge they can't solve. One of the most magnetic qualities a man can have is being a challenge. Not in the sense of playing games or acting distant, but in the sense that you cannot be fully solved. You're not predictable. You're not an open book handed out for free. Instead, you live with depth, discipline, and standards, and that makes people chase you instead of the other way around. Let's ground this with a story. Mark, a 4-year-old contractor from Florida, used to admit that he was too easy. When he liked someone, he gave everything away, texting all the time, saying yes to every request, showing up instantly when called. At first, women appreciated the attention, but over time the spark died. Why? Because there was no challenge, nothing to earn. Then Mark met Julia, a 50-year-old teacher. This time he decided to approach things differently. He didn't play games, but he also didn't make himself too available. When Julia asked about his weekend, he didn't give a detailed itinerary. He just smiled and said, "I had a good time, learned something new." That small restraint made her curious. She leaned in, wanting to know more. Over weeks, she admitted she was drawn to him because she felt like there was always another layer, something just out of reach. Mark had become the challenge not by being distant but by being disciplined. That's the key. A challenge is someone with a life, someone who doesn't bend instantly, someone who respects himself enough not to give everything away. And this creates tension, the good kind. It makes people invest in you. They work to earn your attention, your time, your affection. The Stoics would frame this as self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. When you master yourself, you stop chasing others for validation. You become the challenge by default because your value is self-defined. And nothing is more attractive than a man who doesn't need to be solved in order to feel complete." Now here's the paradox. Being a challenge doesn't mean being cold. It doesn't mean ignoring calls or withholding affection. It means having boundaries, pacing, and purpose. You can be warm and kind while still being someone who doesn't fold at the first sign of attention. That balance, approachable yet mysterious, open yet disciplined, is what keeps people hooked. Think of it like a mountain. Easy trails are fun, but they don't leave a lasting impression. The mountains people talk about, the ones they remember climbing, are the ones that challenge them. Relationships are the same. If you are too easy, too predictable, too available, you become forgettable. But if you are layered, disciplined, and steady, you become the mountain they want to climb again and again. So ask yourself, are you giving yourself away too easily, or are you holding the frame with strength? The man who is the challenge doesn't chase approval. He creates it by the way he lives. Lock this truth into place right now. Drop it in the comments. I am the challenge. And in the next part, we'll explore how presence, not performance, becomes the ultimate form of attraction. Number 8. Use presence, not performance. Here's a truth. Most men never realize people aren't drawn to your performance. They're drawn to your presence. You don't need to juggle words, tell endless stories, or act like the funniest guy in the room. You don't win respect by showing off. You win respect by showing up fully, calm, grounded, and unshaken. Performance is exhausting, and it usually backfires. When you try too hard to impress, people can sense it. They may smile, they may laugh, but inside they know you're seeking approval. And the moment you chase approval, you lose power. Presence, on the other hand, requires no effort. It's the quiet strength of knowing who you are, of standing in the moment without needing to prove anything. The Stoics built their entire philosophy on this idea. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Presence is exactly that, being rooted in your own mind, not tossed around by the need for applause. When you walk into a room and you're comfortable in your own skin, that energy radiates. People feel it without you saying a word. Think about the difference. A man who performs is loud, animated, trying to grab attention. He might succeed for a moment, but the effect fades quickly. A man with presence doesn't compete for attention. He draws it naturally. His calmness, his steadiness, and his deliberate words make people lean toward him. Presence doesn't shout. Presence whispers, and yet everyone hears it. Presence also creates polarity, the subtle tension that fuels attraction. When you're present, you're not rushing ahead or stuck in your head. You're here, fully with the person in front of you. That kind of focus is rare. Most people live distracted, half on their phone, half in their thoughts. But when someone feels your full attention, it's electrifying. They feel seen, not entertained. And here's the paradox. Presence often looks like doing less, but it accomplishes more. You don't have to prove you're interesting, you simply are, because you're alive in the moment. You don't have to force people to notice you. They can't help but notice, because your stillness contrasts with everyone else's noise. Seneca captured this perfectly. A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. Presence is the polish of discipline. It's the product of learning to sit with discomfort, to resist the urge to perform, and to let your silence speak louder than performance ever could. So how do you build it? First, stop overthinking your image. Presence isn't about crafting a persona, it's about showing up real. Second, slow your pace. Speak a little slower, move a little calmer, breathe a little deeper. Third, give your attention fully. Don't plan your reply while someone is speaking. Listen, absorb, then respond with intention. These shifts may feel small, but they add up to a magnetic energy. Presence is rare, and rarity creates attraction. Here's your takeaway. Stop performing. Stop proving. Start being. The man with presence doesn't dance for attention, he commands it by existing fully in the moment. That's the kind of magnetism no one can resist. Lock it in right now. Write in the comments, "I live present," because in the next part we'll take this idea even further into the realm where actions speak louder than words, and where the way you move can seduce more deeply than anything you say. Number 9. Actions seduce louder than words. Words matter, but they're not the final measure of attraction. What truly lingers, what truly captivates, are actions. Because words can be doubted, but actions are undeniable. You can say you're confident, disciplined, or caring, but until you live it, people won't believe it. And when your actions align with your words, that's when you become unforgettable. Let's make this real. Anthony, a 5-6-year-old business owner from Texas, once told me how his biggest mistake was relying on charm. He knew how to talk smooth compliments, confident stories, but his actions didn't back it up. He'd say he valued fitness but skipped the gym. He'd promised to follow through but never did. Women enjoyed his company in the short term, but long-term attraction slipped away. Why? Because his words didn't match his reality. Then there's Michelle, a 53-year-old real estate agent in California. She admitted that what made her fall for her partner wasn't his talk, it was his consistency. He didn't brag about being dependable, he showed it. When he said he'd call, he called. When he promised to meet, he showed up early. When he claimed he valued growth, she saw him reading, learning, and putting knowledge into practice. Michelle told me that was when I trusted him, not when he said it, but when he lived it. That's the point. Actions seduce louder than words because they bypass skepticism. People have learned not to believe everything they hear. But when they see you live what you say, resistance melts away. The Stoics built their philosophy on this foundation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." It's not about debating, convincing, or performing. It's about embodying. When your actions show strength, discipline, and purpose, you don't have to advertise it. People feel it. And here's where it gets powerful in attraction. A man who talks too much about what he'll do risks sounding insecure. But a man who acts without boasting, without forcing, creates quiet seduction. Going to the gym consistently not to impress, but because you value health. Leading with calm decisions not to dominate, but because you know yourself. Treating people with respect not to get points, but because that's who you are. These things radiate outwards, more magnetic than any clever line. Anthony told me the biggest shift in his life happened when he stopped talking and started living. I realized he said that no one remembers what you say when your actions don't match. But when your actions are strong, people repeat your name even when you're not in the room. That's the lasting impression. Your behavior becomes your reputation. So here's your challenge. Next time you're tempted to talk big, stop. Ask yourself, how can I show this instead? If you want people to see you as disciplined, don't announce it, demonstrate it. If you want them to respect you, don't demand it, earn it. And if you want to be unforgettable, don't try to convince anyone. Let your actions do the seducing. Claim this standard right now. Write it in the comments. I lead by action. Because in the final part, we'll reveal the ultimate principle that discipline itself, carried through silence and presence, is what transforms desire into something much deeper: respect. Number 10. Dark discipline créate désir. There's a kind of attraction that goes beyond charm, words, or even action. It's the attraction created by discipline. Discipline is rare, and that's exactly why it's magnetic. Most people live in chaos, pulled around by distractions, impulses, and emotions. When you stand firm with structure, restraint, and control, you create a contrast so sharp that others can't help but notice. That contrast is where desire begins. Dark discipline isn't about coldness or cruelty. It's about the kind of self-control that unsettles people because it exposes their lack of it. When you don't chase, when you don't fold under pressure, when you don't need instant gratification, you become the exception. And exceptions always stand out. Think about it. A man who drinks too much, eats without control, or spends money recklessly may get laughs for the moment, but he doesn't command respect. A man who chooses moderation, who says no, who walks away, who holds himself to a higher standard, becomes intriguing. People wonder, what's driving him? Where does that strength come from? That curiosity becomes desire. The Stoics built their lives on this principle. Seneca wrote, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." Discipline is power. Not loud, not flashy, but steady. It creates a silent gravity, pulling people in without you lifting a finger. And here's where the dark side comes in. Discipline means you're willing to deny not only yourself, but also others. You don't give them what they want on demand. You don't text back immediately just to soothe their ego. You don't break silence when your presence is being taken for granted. That restraint unsettles them. It forces them to face your strength. And the more they feel that restraint, the more they crave your release. Imagine two men. One says yes to everything, gives attention freely, spills every thought as soon as it enters his head. The other waits. He chooses when to speak, when to act, when to give. Which man builds tension? Which man becomes unforgettable? Always the second. Because his discipline makes every gesture worth more. This is why desire is born from scarcity. When something is always available, it's taken for granted. When it's rare, when it's earned, when it comes from someone who could withhold it at any moment, it becomes intoxicating. Your discipline turns even small acts into powerful signals. A simple compliment, a short message, a glance across the room. When it comes from you, it matters because you don't give it away lightly. Marcus Aurelius captured this mindset when he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's the essence of dark discipline. Control the self, and you control the frame of every interaction. You don't bend to moods, you don't beg for validation, and you don't collapse under pressure. Instead, you set the rhythm, and others move around you. Dark discipline doesn't just create attraction, it transforms it into respect. People may be intrigued by mystery, touched by compliments, or drawn to your presence. But when they see your discipline, they recognize something deeper. They know you are not easily moved, not easily swayed, not easily conquered. That realization creates not only desire, but also reverence. And this is where you stand apart. Because anyone can perform, anyone can talk, anyone can act for a moment, but few can master themselves consistently. Discipline is what turns fleeting interest into lasting magnetism. So remember this: the strongest form of desire is born not from indulgence, but from restraint. Your silence, your control, your discipline, they're not walls that push people away. They're magnets that draw them in, because everyone is searching for the steadiness they lack. When you live with that kind of discipline, you don't need to chase. You don't need to prove. You don't even need to speak much. Your life itself becomes the message, and that message is irresistible. So there you have it, 10 powerful ways to use Stoic psychology, attraction, and discipline to change how people see you, and more importantly, how you see yourself. Remember, it's not about tricks or manipulation. It's about mastering your own mind, holding your frame, and letting your presence do the work. If this video gave you something valuable, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That way, you won't miss the next lesson we drop right here. And if you're ready to go deeper, if you want access to exclusive strategies, advanced Stoic insights, and member-only content that sharpens your confidence and your relationships, then consider joining as a channel member today. Membership isn't just about supporting the channel, it's about investing in yourself. Thank you for watching. I appreciate your time. Stay disciplined, stay sharp, and I'll see you tomorrow.